Are you concerned about all this corruption being misgendered as conspiracies? Well, don't you worry. Sit back, relax, and join in the conversation as we talk with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Hello and welcome to the channel. It's me, Chris Brooks, for another LSB Film podcast. Today I'm joined with Denise, who is an ex-councillor. Now, she started her counselling career in 1999, but she was always deemed as a bit of a troublemaker, even though she really wasn't. So we're going to get to the bottom of that. And also she would like to touch on the concerns about this huge agricultural farming thing which is going on in Methwold, where it's like mass production of farms. So I'm assuming it's going to be huge amounts of traffic and just chaos for a small village. So let's get down to it. Welcome to the show, Denise.
Hello.
Hello. So let's start from the beginning. Let's hear about you.
Hear about me, right? Okay. I joined the council a long while ago because I had the interest at heart as a local village and my local community. It was important to me about what was going on. It was a new voice, a younger person, and I always think that younger people can offer so much to older members of the council about how things are run. It takes on a fresh perspective, and that I was hoping to help do that. And I must admit, I did ruffle a few feathers.
Well, to be fair, I don't think you're doing your job properly unless you ruffle a few feathers.
Well, there was a classic. I have to tell you about this classic. It was a really good one. It was around about 2000, when they were talking about the millennium and the implications of what that was. And then we had freedom of information. And I can always remember this older gentleman who was on the parish council at the time, who was really annoyed with me. Why do we want to give people information about this? Why do we want to do this? Why do we want to do that? And as a result, then he resigned. I thought, oh my God, but this is new laws that are coming out to do with the Data Protection Act, and I just didn't understand it. I thought, oh my goodness. But anyway, there you go.
It's terrible.
These things are sent to try, I say.
Well, that's very true. Yeah, that good old adage.
Yeah.
So why do you think that they had such an issue with you then on this council?
Well, what you see is what you get. I'm a direct person. I have been trained in questioning techniques. So in other words, you ask a question and you try and find out what is going on. So investigation is what I'm about. So I will investigate something. If I don't understand something, I'll ask a question. Like, for example, please, Mr. Chairman, can you explain to me what this is all about? One classic that we were talking about earlier was an application for money, which was then going to go towards a cause within the village. I wanted to ask a few more questions about it. Puff, 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 puff. That's what happened. And it's a case of you start to think to yourself, well, hold on, I've missed a few months of this and I don't really understand what's going on. I've had personal reasons why I've not been able to be here. Can you not fill me in on this? And I was then deemed to be, asking awkward questions. So I thought, well, if you've got awkward questions and you can't answer them, what's going on?
And it didn't, to me, that didn't even sound like an awkward question.
Well, the awkward question came probably around about March 2015, 2016, when we were looking at providing a new phone for a paid member of the parish council. And naturally, you ask the question of, what contract are you on? I'm on a contract. What deal have you got? Oh, don't even go there. A member of the audience then, planted, obviously, decided then that this was an issue for the council. And she put pen to paper and I had a code of conduct complaint against me. Why? I was asking a question. How was public money being spent? What was the contract? I was actually interested in finding out about the contract because for myself, it might have been a better deal than I'm on. And naturally, you want to know, what we're spending money on. So that was the reason for it. But no. And this went on for months. And the code of conduct complaint came at right the middle of Easter, the Easter weekend. We could do nothing more about it. It was all time to upset me. Luckily, it didn't. I just laughed at it and thought, oh, for God's sake, what have they got to hide? It's ridiculous.
That is insane.
So probing into yet more questions about what they were doing, they didn't like it. And they turned their backs on me.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I always felt like the black sheep
in
the council.
Yeah. So 2017, I decided then, okay, let's try and turn the tables around, because we had the chairman running off to the borough council to talk to the monitoring officer about me and how the rest of the council could not work with me. And one guy had apparently left because he didn't like the fact that I was questioning what the parish council were doing. Why? This is ridiculous. So he was off talking to the monitoring officer about me. And I just sat there thinking, well, let's just wait and see what happens. But there was something else was brewing at this time, and I'll come on to that a bit later on.
Okay.
And he went to them, and I just thought to myself, do you know what? This is ridiculous. If I've got to put up with this, do I either turn the cheek and become really, oh, do you know what? I'm not going to bother questioning anything more about where the public purse is going. So I decided, come Christmas time, let's make some mince pies. Everybody loves a homemade mince pie, and took them in, and I was their best friend. Great.
That's how fickle they are. Isn't it? Really, that sums them up. It really does sum them up. Ooh.
Bribed by a mince pie. Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it?
Of all the
so
things.
they took that on board, and yeah, fine. But then we had lockdown, and unfortunately, just shortly after lockdown, I lost my mum, and I had taken some time out, and I just couldn't cope with all the goings on, the backwards and forwards, and all the the comments and this, that, and the next thing. I was even accused by, well, there was an inference, let's put it this way, that one councillor was contacted about 20 to 8 on a Saturday night by 2 police officers that turned up in the dark on her doorstep because a member of the public had complained about somebody coming up their lane like an idiot, driving like an idiot or whatever. And this had been reported to them, to the police, by a councillor. And you know who was going to be responsible for that one. And so we were doing the meetings by Zoom, all eyes. You could see them, staring at you, and you're thinking, I'm not going to say anything. I'm entitled to comment about a car that's acting, oddly. And especially if there's an elderly gentleman who's walking up that lane and who's at risk of, not being able to get out of the way in time. It's an accident waiting to happen. And I knew where this speeding car was coming from. So, it was just get at me every which way they could. And I just totally ignored them. I continued on until.
So do you think they were doing this purely to, because it is borderline, I would say, harassment and intimidation. And so do you think they were trying to do this to edge you out?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I know too much about what goes on in that council. Absolutely. And I'll let you into another little one. It's all fact, and I've got the facts.
Please do.
So, if you're telling people facts, they can't dispute it. So let's go back to last year, so 2023. I was still off the council because I had taken time out to let them calm down after their stupid code of conduct complaints against me. An issue to do with a comment that was innocently made answering a query on Facebook was deemed to be having a go at a paid member of staff of the parish council. And I'm thinking, I've read this comment back and forth and I can't understand it. And I had one, two, three. They kept coming, they kept coming. I thought, do you know what? This is just puerile, childish, stupid goings on. And I'm just going to leave them to get on with it. So, around about January time, Stephen Barclay, who was then the health minister, had spoken about defibrillators. And a member of our village had said, do you know what? We haven't got one for the village and it would be a good idea. So how do I go about getting one? I said, well, write to, the parish council, ask them. I'm not on, I'm taking the back step. I don't want anything to do with this. You write him. So they wrote him, and the can was literally kicked down the street several times. They did not want to answer this, how to help them out, how to do anything about it. So they went to a public meeting, and the public meeting was in February. And funnily enough, the then chairman at the time was off sick. And I had been voted in as vice chairman that previous year before I got my code of conduct complaints. So I offered to chair the meeting. And there were funny looks around the table of, well, she's going to be here, I'm not going to do that. So I had one member stand up who was the ex-chairman of the council, and he stood up and he said, I'm not going to be in this meeting. I've got an 8-page complaint against me by that woman over there, blah, 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 whatever. Woman next to him stood up and said, I've made a complaint against her, and I'm not going to be in this meeting either. And then a third person, who I hadn't even seen the complaint about, made a complaint and said, I've made a complaint and I'm not sitting here either. So therefore, we were in court. So we couldn't do anything about it. And the two members of the council who went in on this were absolutely gobsmacked. Their faces sort of went, oh, what's going to happen now? There was a packed room of people who wanted to discuss about the defibrillator and put this forward. They wanted to ask about, could they get funding? Could they get help? What was this all about? And they walked out on me. And the following day, it was all over the EDP.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Would you be able to send me the link or to that?
Yeah, I can definitely send you the link.
Because I might put that up on the screen as we.
Yeah. So that came up, and that was just a classic. I thought, this is a life or death piece of equipment. And since I have to say, we just turned around and in disgust, we just said, get on with it, ignore them, we'll get on with it. And in April, I did a classic. I walked out of the parish council. I walked into the meeting that day and I handed in my notice to the clerk and to the chairman who was sitting there. There was a packed room, and I thought, I will go and take my seat at the back of the room. And this was because this was amusing.
So as part of the audience.
Yeah, as part of the audience. Yeah. And this was hilarious because during the course of the week, I had put down exactly what I thought. How members of the public aren't aware of the amount of money for a church wall that is crumbling, and there's a huge amount of money that's being put aside for this wall should it decide to collapse in a complete heap or whatever. There was something bandied around about £4,000 for parish council notice boards. There's only 3 villages. £4,000 for notice boards. It's a ridiculous amount of money. And there's various other things.
Crazy.
Absolutely. So I put this down on social media, really whacking home where the money was going to. And when I sat in the audience, it was hilarious. It was even funnier still to be thinking about it. The ex-chairman asked, was I going to come and take a seat? And I said no. And then when they had the opportunity, the guy who stood up as, until very recently, was vice chairman, he then started to criticise what had happened on social media and said, ladies and gentlemen, this is this is that, and she's totally wrong about this. I wasn't. It's all fact. I mean, what is going on? That you cannot draw where the public purse is being spent and, give the local people information that they need. Once over, we used to have a sheet of expenses of what was going out and what was coming in so that the public could see that. Since round about 2015, that has never been published publicly. So we don't get to see how much money is going out. But
Oh, you froze. Oh, internet connection again.
sorry.
I said you froze then.
Oh, oh, okay. Sorry about that. I've done
That's
it
all right.
again. Yeah, it's very unstable, the connection. Yeah, so people were allowed to obviously I don't know how far we got. Did we get as far as the expenses that used to be
You were
published?
just saying that since 2015 they hadn't
Yeah,
been publishing.
yeah, they did publish them. But since 2015, nobody knows when the money's going. But you can go and inspect the accounts if you want to, but not many people know about that.
Hmm.
So last year, a couple of people approached me about money, and because I'd come off the council and I hadn't had an interest in what was going on because I'd had 5 months off, then I resigned in April. I couldn't tell them where the money was being spent. I've got
No.
no recollection of it. It hit me because of losing my mum and other personal issues that were happening. And I wasn't interested. So I said to them, you can find out by asking the parish council, go in and have a look at the accounts. And then that's where it really went bad because we'd missed the May option to view the accounts, but there was an option then to contact the auditor and view the accounts. And these people had specific questions and I couldn't answer them. I had been asked by the council to get rid of everything that I knew about the council because of GDPR. So everything that I had was erased. So I couldn't answer them in all honesty about where money had gone to, what was that all about. And I said I couldn't answer questions, so they would have to go. So I'll write the letter for you and I'll pop in with you if you want me to, just to give you an idea because I know where to look and what to happen. So we arranged a meeting. 4 members of the parish council turned up. So the chairman, the vice chairman that complained about me going on about the wall and everything else, and 2 members of the public. Two further councillors, one of which was the ex-member of the public who had criticised me about the mobile phone and dissing the member of the public and that it was undermining their capability to do the job. She suddenly decided to become a councillor. So there's 4 of them. And I think they thought it was just going to be me on my own. So when I turned up with the people that were interested, we sat down, we asked, could we see the accounts? Pile of paper that was photocopied, a load of bank statements, copies of electricity, phone bills, odd little bits. The bank accounts were redacted, so you couldn't see where money was going to or from. And that basically was it. There was no ledger. Now, if you ask to see the audited accounts, you're supposed to be able to see a ledger, surely. No, we didn't see it. The clerk didn't work that day, so therefore we were not able to ask, could we actually see it on a laptop? No, couldn't see it. And we were made to be seen as an organised members of the local community as a bunch of troublemakers. And it was all over the paper then, it was all over social media, it was this, it was that, and it was, yeah, I was toxic basically. I had my
Oh,
name besmirched.
I would have been inclined to go down the old defamation route
Yeah, yeah, it
because
was it.
anyone can ask for a subject access request or a freedom of information request.
Mm-hmm. It was totally toxic. So we could not see information that we were actually asking for. So members of the public who pay their council taxes want to know where their money's being spent, want to know what's going on within the village, how much is that costing us? Are they still going for the thousands of pounds worth of notice boards, etc. No, but they will actually put a bench up where nobody sits on it.
Other than
Okay.
pigeons.
Sorry?
Other than pigeons.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So we're going through a similar thing with Thetford at the moment, but it's more to do with the so-called climate crisis.
right.
And they're trying to, I think it's something like £40,000, which could go to much better use. And it's like, on what evidence? And they've done a freedom. My friend Bob Says, he also stood as one of the Thomas Paine independents when we ran
Mm-hmm,
for the election, me being the only one that got in though.
mm-hmm,
And he was doing a freedom of information, and they can't answer, oh, we get our information from Friends of the Earth people. It's like, well, that's not evidence.
mm,
They're incapable of answering a question.
mm, mm. Well, here in our area, most people would now have started to hear about it, but we're now being faced with an application by a massive company who own a slaughterhouse up at Wharton, who want to put 56,000 pigs on a site with 6.4 million chickens on that same site. What do we do?
How big
Now,
an area are we talking?
sorry?
How big an area are we talking?
Well, it's the size of the Millennium Dome, basically. So it's probably bigger than the Millennium Dome. It's absolutely massive. The company paid, I'm led to believe, 5.85 million for this plot of land. It's up. The people think it's up on the airfield, but it's actually not. It's sort of hidden away, but it's not hidden away once you know whereabouts it is. And this same company, I think there were about 11 or 12 bungalows that were on there with people that worked for, I don't know if it was a previous company or what, but they evicted those people. So we're led to believe that's from the EDP article. And the plan is to put four houses on there for staff. So there's only going to be four jobs that's basically on that site. The rest of them will be shipped in as and when. And this has not been discussed in a public meeting, which we're pushing for. So this all kicked off, and this is another thing I'll let you know about. 2021, from my recollection, this was on. This was discussed by the parish council. Now, at that time, my mum wasn't very well, so I wasn't at that meeting. But four members of the public who were staunch, people that turned up every meeting, they'd be there. Probably them. I couldn't tell you who they were, but there were four members of the public. And the agent to the applicant turned up. I believe the applicant was there, and they gave a little brief talk about we've got a plan here for this site in Methwold to put some chickens on, and that was it. And they walked away having given their sort of probably 10 or 15 minute spiel. I've got no idea how long that went on for, but that wasn't a public meeting. Four people is not a public meeting. So they did the same thing then over in Feltwell for the pigs. So we had the chickens, they had the pigs. Not much was made of this because chickens, you think, oh, okay, it's chickens, isn't it? We didn't know the numbers. Well, I certainly didn't know the numbers. I was a member of the council. So when I read the minutes, there was nothing in there to say there's going to be 6.4 million chickens, because if you suddenly sit down and think 6.4 million chickens, good grief, that's an awful lot of chickens, out there. Where are they going to be? But nothing was made of this. So there was no mention of the numbers or anything. And it wasn't until last year that things started to get a little bit heated, and members of the public have started to find out about where the traffic was going to be going, and the frequency of the traffic, then the disruption that was going to happen. And they put pressure then on the council to hold a meeting or to put leaflets out.
Mm-hmm.
And they did nothing. They wouldn't leaflet. and they wouldn't have a public meeting. So they were waiting for something to happen up at the borough council, and then they would hold the public meeting. So we started to form a group, started to get some information about what this company was about, what they're like, where this was going to be. And we read the environmental statement from back to front and all the appendices. And we sat there, there's a group of us, like-minded people from all the villages that were sort of affected. And we sat there and we scratched our heads and said, this is a massive company moving in a massive operation into this area. Who on earth is going to want that on their doorstep? Because there's going to be thundering traffic going through at all times of day and night. There's going to be animals squealing. If you actually take a look from one of the roads within the village, look down, and there's a pinpoint because there's a big silvery dome, which is the anaerobic digester. You could just about see that. You can work out from the map where this pig farm's going to be. And because of the southwesterly wind, but it blows from in this direction, the plume of gases is just going to waft over, and the village is going to be hit by it. And then, of course, the emissions that come up and disperse eventually are going to affect quite a number of people. And this is a serious matter. And we've gone back and we've said, we've formed this group.
Which is the group on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a protest group. Well, we're not really, we've got the wrong name on there. We're not really a protest group. What we're trying to do is make people aware of what's going on. You know, if you want to support it, put your name on the planning portal. We haven't seen anyone supporting it. What we have seen is a lot of people objecting to it. And those people that are objecting to it are not representative of the rest of the people that are in those villages that live there who don't even know anything about it. And this is a worry. So we asked to hold a meeting, and we asked, could we hold a meeting free? We've been asking for a number of weeks now, can we have a meeting? And we've gone back, and the parish council have said they will not hold a meeting until the applicant puts in their final submissions. So we held a meeting. We thought we can't afford to pay for the hire of the hall because they've got their hourly charges and their deposit that they want. And then they probably wouldn't allow us to hold a meeting because we are a protest group, not that we are. And they don't want to be politically affiliated, and they have to remain neutral, is what they said. That doesn't stop any one of them from putting their comments onto the planning portal. And if you search for me, I was one of the very few, as a parish councillor, who made my comments known about what was going on up there. Anyway, fast forward to where we are at the moment. We had the meeting on the 20th of March over in Northwold. It was a free venue. You just had to buy a drink. And we didn't know how many people were going to turn up. And we had arranged to hold this because we wanted to make people aware. We weren't going to be a bunch of vigilantes force feeding people, telling them sign on the dotted line or else. It was a case of, we're not vegans. We are meat eaters. You know, there are some vegans in there. There are some people who don't eat meat. There are some people who just, don't want to get, don't like the idea of animal cruelty. There's a mixed bunch of us that are on that group. But what we wanted to do was to get that out to people, to let them know that this is going to affect them. So what we did then do was, because we had been in contact with the press, we'd put an interview out on the radio. We had been on local Anglia TV, put that message out. We thought, a lot more people are going to know about this. And when we had our meeting, we wanted to reach out to those people who didn't know. And in that room, no kidding, 100 people turned up. They didn't know anything about it. And I'm going, what? Where have you been? They knew nothing about it, and they wanted to help. How can we help? What do you want doing? But we had then brought out our ace from up our sleeves, and we said to them, right, we've told you about the health implications. We've told you about the implications about it hitting water courses, etc. And what happened down at the Wye Valley could happen here as well. And we gave them chapter and verse. We've been talking to researchers. We're not stupid people. We've been off and done the research to find out and get the facts. And we brought out our ace, which was a person who lives right on the edge of another factory farm. And we asked them, could you stand up and address the room and tell us what it is like as a lived experience of being next to this? And the room fell silent. The borough councillor who was there could not stop scribbling. We had the Labour Party candidate from your neck of the woods came over. He couldn't stop scribbling either. He was writing stuff down at a great rate of knots. How come I didn't know about this? How come I didn't know about such and such? And between them, they were just sitting there writing all this down. And we said, we need to do something about this. We understand if people think it's going to be local jobs for them. I don't know where they're reading this, because unless they're part of the gangs that this company will bring in to herd up the chickens when they're ready, or herd up the pigs when they're ready, who's going to be involved? We can't get our heads around who they think they're going to be employed by or what they're going to do, unless they're going to be, employed on the land, shoveling the muck or something. But then that's down to the people that they say in the plan are going to be responsible for this. So we can't get our heads around this. We're not sure where they're coming from. This is what's worrying me.
Yeah. There might even be people coming off of boats working the land. So non-locals.
Well, I know from talking to somebody else that they were saying that they bring in gangs, and they said it's not pleasant work that these gangs do, because they literally are loading up the chickens. I've seen footage from a company up on the A17 where gangs of people come in and they literally just grab hold of these chickens and shove them in crates. They're then shoved on a lorry and then taken off to the slaughterhouse. So they're brought in when they have the cycles of the chickens, because there's about 7 cycles that they'll have. But there'll be 7 cycles plus the extra cycles. So there's actually going to be probably 14 cycles, because the first one they have will be when the chicks are about 6 weeks old. And they're the ones that go off to Nando's and Marks and Spencer's and all those sort of people that want to use them for, whatever, certain weight and things like that. And then they'll fatten up the rest of them. And at around about 8 weeks, I think it is, they'll come back for the rest of them. So there's literally a gang that will pick up one lot, and then a gang that will come back and pick up another lot. And then we've got the pigs as well. So the pigs will be fattened at a certain weight and then sent off.
And did you say 56,000 pigs?
56,000 pigs, yeah. 14,000 per cycle. Sorry?
That is a lot of bacon.
Yeah. There's 14,000 pigs, basically 1,000 per shed. That's an awful lot of pigs. And if you drive anywhere now in the car and look to your right or left, you'll see a field full of pigs. And they're basically what's feeding the slaughterhouse locally. So that's where they're going.
Are you getting any opposition from other members of public? Like, I know at the moment, no farms, no food. It's quite a big campaign movement going on where farmers are feeling the cosh from the so-called net zero implications of higher rates and whatnot. Are you getting any kind of backlash from that aspect where we need to feed people, or is it predominantly...
We understand that. We understand the need to feed people, and we are not against that at all. Whatever your preference is, whether or not you're vegan, you're meat eater, you eat fish, or you don't eat at all, it's your preference, what you decide you want to eat. And we're not stopping people from wanting cheap food if that's what they can afford, because we know there's a cost of living crisis, and we're not against that. And we're not against the idea of a farmer with his pigs and what happens eventually. But what we don't want is for this to impact our local farmers, who
and the quality of life of the people in the villages.
I mean, our local farmers are important to us. they really are. We really do support our local farmers. We know that there's local farmers who produce, vegetables, and every now and again they'll turn around and say, well, these aren't acceptable by the supermarket. So there's a load of them up on the green. Go and help yourself to as many as you want and whatever, and have a lovely time. And we think they are great, and we have a great rapport with those. And those guys are the ones that we want to protect from this. Once this lot come in, we know from our discussions with our opposite number in Suffolk that the trucks will be coming from here, there, and everywhere to bring grain in from the mills. There's a construction work that's going to happen. I think we read somewhere, and you'll have to forgive me on this if I've misquoted. So it's going from memory. I understand that there are 20 concrete lorries per shed, and there's going to be 20 sheds for the chickens and 14 sheds for the pigs. That's a hell of a lot of concrete that's going to be rumbling along these country roads, backwards and forwards to set these sheds up. And that's without the demolition. And should they demolish these buildings and they have asbestos on them, then I don't know what's going to happen.
Because that's another health issue all on its own, isn't it?
Yeah.
Asbestos.
The health implications are so massive for people around here that we want to protect them. We want to get that message out to them, that they totally are aware that this is not going to go away. And there's a wonderful piece. I mean, after the lady spoke from the neighbouring farm, which was owned by this company, spoke, I had to try and find something that I could put up on our group. And I set the team to look for something for us. And there was a great video done by a Danish researcher for Greenpeace, I believe it was. And it was about the implications of living near where a pig farm was, a mega farm was. And this one isn't half as big as the one we're getting. And they were talking about garden furniture being covered in this slimy type stuff, how it implicated their whole livelihood. So you can't go out and sit in your garden because you get wafted by, the smell. There's flies because of the
hanging your washing out.
Yeah, hanging your washing out. Yeah, coming. And this is what we were told. Sometimes you hang your washing out, you have to take it in again because it still stinks. You rewash it, put it out again. And not everybody has the luxury of a tumble dryer, or can switch the heating on to dry it on the radiators or something like that.
Perhaps people need to start withholding their council tax.
Well, yeah, that would be a great idea. But
because that's the only way that these people will actually, in my opinion, that's the only way they'll sit up and listen. Oh, we're getting no money.
Yeah. But the problem is nobody knows about what's going on. I mean, somebody said, why have you not got banners out? Well, if we put banners out, then we do look like a protest group.
Well, do you know what our group, what we did when it was regarding the 20-minute neighborhoods? I don't know if you saw any of that. That's kind of how my channel exploded through doing that. But you've heard of the Stand in the Park group? Which kind of okay, well, the Stand in the Park group all started at the beginning of COVID when you wasn't allowed to go to the park. And so I was like, right, we're all going to go to the park then. And you're going to stand there like a quiet protest, really. And that's kind of just evolved. And that's worldwide. That actually started in Australia. And so when this 20-minute neighborhoods thing come up, there was a handful of us, about, I don't know, between 10 and 20 people. And we all put into the kitty and we got leaflets printed up saying, are you aware of this? This is happening. And then we told them to go to the next council meeting. Now, that agenda wasn't on the next council meeting, but 200 people turned up and they were all in the room where they hold the meeting, all down the stairs, out the door. And so we quickly got an emergency meeting, same day, a venue at the Thomas Paine Hotel in Thetford. And it was that video that I recorded that went viral. So have you thought about printing your own leaflets, and then again we distributed them all out? We went around and just posted them through the letterboxes, and I think it costs about oh, I can't remember. It's probably about five. You could probably get about 500 for £500. You could get something like 5,000 leaflets.
Yeah, we did a leaflet drop last year. We did a little A5 glossy leaflet. We had help from somebody else did that, and I think the local borough councillor, I think, coordinated the leaflets going out.
Okay.
And this was the worry, because when we asked people, why have you not heard about this? They said, we don't know anything about it. We said, did you not get our little leaflet? What leaflet? I've never seen this. And we said, well, it went out probably June, July, August time, something like that last year. And you should have got it, because there were teams of people who were going to put these through the letterbox. And they said, no, we haven't seen anything. And we were, well, what happened? Who missed off who off the list? Now, we had a bunch of them drop back to one of the members of the group. And they said there was quite a substantial amount of these leaflets, and I don't know how many they went for, but a substantial amount of these leaflets that weren't given out. I mean, admittedly, there was too much information on them. So what we've decided now is, as a result of the meeting, we've now got somebody who's going to design us a website, which is brilliant. And we think the website will be absolutely superb. Maybe this could go on that. I don't know if you give permission for that. Or you could link us to it. But we were also working on a nice leaflet that's going to say what's happening out there, how they can get in contact. Because the problem is, people are thinking it's not going to happen here. I mean, one of the guys who's heavily involved in the as part of the committee, the team that we've got now, was talking to neighbours who said, well, I've moved up from London and it's not going to really affect me. I'm not really bothered about this. And it's just total apathy.
I'm all right, Jack.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
But the minute there's a stench and there's flies and there's the rumbling of lorries and the racket that comes past their houses or whatever, keyboard warrior, oh yes, who do I contact or something? Oh, they'll do it for me. I won't do it. Somebody else will do it for me. It's no good. It's happened. They're in.
People have to start taking responsibility for their own lives.
Absolutely. Which is why I went on to that council, to empower people to know what is going on in the local community and to take the actions that they need, should they need to do that. So, should we take money from the purse and create this, or give this amount of money to that? Should we do this? Shouldn't we do this? I mean, I could go on for another hour if you wanted me to about where.
Ordinarily, I'd say yes, but I have another podcast, so I can't. But you would be more than welcome to come back on again at another stage to continue part 2.
Yeah, well, it is a case of, are people not bothered about where their money goes to? There's an awful lot of money that goes out, and nobody questions where it goes out to. And this is something that they should be doing. And this brings us back to, why are our council not being proactive and listening to the voices of the people who know nothing about what's going on, and give the floor to us? We're not a protest group. We're an awareness group who's trying to get out there to let people know what's going on. Once we get into the consultation process and the applicant has put their final touches to their submissions, if people miss a council meeting and they miss it being minuted somewhere the following month in the local newspaper that goes out, it's going to be too late to put an objection up online, because the planners will close it, and that is it. And if they want to have a voice, they need to know what they're talking about now. And this is why we want the council to get off their high horse, give us a free room, allow us to talk to people. We're not a protest group. We're not going to have a rave. We're just wanting to talk to people about what goes on in a factory farm, and to let people know this is going to happen. Because let's face it, they're a big company.
What is the timeline for this? Because as the weather starts to get a little bit better, could you not get involved with one of the farmers and say, right, could we use one of your barns and hire a PA system and hold your own meeting?
Well, we have um, um, somebody within our area who we have approached who did say after the meeting in April where I walked out and this was first discussed, I have got, oh, I can get hold of a marquee. And it's not a little tiny one. This is a massive one that hold about 4,000 people if needs be, and stick it on the rack. So if we can't get something, I think as a protest, and and
Because the
blow
wreck is
the
common law land, isn't it?
yeah,
So
yeah,
you've got every right to use that, and the
yeah,
council can't butt in. See, to me, that would be the approach that I would take, purely because you shouldn't have to ask councils for
no,
permission because you are actually above councils.
mm-hmm,
They work for you,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and so when you're asking, it's as king.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
asking as king because
yeah,
you're above them,
yes,
and
yeah,
so. And like,
exactly.
are you familiar with Richard Vobes?
No,
No, okay. Well, he's a big YouTuber who's got over 200,000 followers, and he came up with this analogy village where called Biggleswick, and so it doesn't really exist, but they kept going to the council, and the council kept refusing and whatnot, and so they said, right, well, sod ya, we'll do it on our own. We don't need you. And then it turned out like so instead of paying council tax, they would pay this other alternative People's Council, and they bypassed that, and so the actual council became redundant. And I think that's kind of where I see things going
yeah.
eventually.
That's a brilliant idea.
Mm,
Well, we may research that one because certainly we said if we've got the opportunity to get that and we could advertise it and say it's going to be held. I mean, what they're going to do? If there's going to be 4,000 people turn up, they're not going to turn around and say
exactly.
you've done something wrong. Or if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and let's get people round and tell them what's going on. And why would they want to stop us from telling people what's going on? It's in the public interest, and that's what they are missing. I mean, we've
But
written
you've got to
letters.
bear in mind the council aren't interested in public interest. They're interested in private gain,
Yeah, yeah.
all the
We've
backhand
written to them.
deals and things.
Yeah,
That's the council.
yeah. We've written to them.
Mm,
We've written to them several times and asked. We've asked in a very nice way, can we have this? No. It'll be us running the meeting. Well, if they're
mm,
running the meeting, are they going to have the same amount of knowledge as we have? Or will we be shut up? Will we only be allowed a 3 minute
mm.
sort of chance to talk and ask questions of the planners, of the applicant, of their agent, and then shut up? What is going on? This just
Exactly.
doesn't
See,
sit right with any
see,
of us.
exactly, and that's the thing that gripes with me is that you don't ask their permission. Oh, can we? You demand that they do this
Yeah,
because you are above them.
yeah, yeah,
That's the stance that I would
yeah.
take.
Well, we're in the process of writing to the chair of the council again to ask them to reconsider one final time. Would they give us a room free? Now, this hall it's got two wings to it. It's fairly big. It could be a case of standing room only, or sort of like like this in it, or it could be a case of we're standing there looking like a minnow in a pond sort of type thing. And it's basically a case of we don't know who's going to turn up to that. But if you put up a huge tent on the wreck, that's going to cause an interest. What's that all about?
Yeah, absolutely. Or or even on a farmer's field,
Yeah, yeah.
because then
Well,
the council have got even less chance of stopping anything because it's on private property.
yeah. I mean, this is something we're going to have to consider. And also, if you've got any experience of that, please contact the team because we're just sort of baffled with, what we can and cannot do. But we're trying to get out there. We want to get the word out there. We want to make people aware.
Mm.
We know it's going to affect them in a few years' time. We don't want to be laughed at. We want to be taken seriously, and we're not a conspiracy group. You know, we've done an awful lot of fact. We've worked
Yeah,
with
but even, I
research.
mean, even let's be fair, even with conspiracies, you know, conspiracies do happen. The
Hmm.
definition of a conspiracy is just one or two or more people conspiring against somebody else. So, you know,
Well, I had exactly the conspiracy against me as to you know, when I told you about the audit and
mm,
examining the accounts and everything else. I was supposed to be under the influence of other people and whatnot. I am me. I have my
mm,
own head, you know, and I'm helping other people. I don't have to be influenced by other people and what they want. They have an agenda. I can see straight through them and will dump them. I'm
mm-hmm,
not interested in them.
that's
What I
true.
am interested in is, you know, getting the word out there. And if I've factually researched it and I'm confident about it, I am not going to spout a load of rubbish. I am going to get that message out to people so that they know what's going on and they can feel empowered to make their own decisions. Like I
Yeah,
say, I'm not going to stand
absolutely.
there and tell them to put their arm at the back and whatnot.
I mean, even my fellow subscribers, because they're all a clued up bunch, you know, they will say, you know, especially given the last 4 years, the only difference between a conspiracy, the sorry, the difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy fact is about 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, yeah. But it will be interesting to see what happens because we
Absolutely.
are forming an opinion as to what is going on here.
Well, listen, I wish you all the very best. Keep in contact with me. Let me know what's going on. If I'm able to offer any assistance, whether it be knowledge or knowing people who could help, I will most certainly get involved and do that as well. But for now, I've very much enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah, ditto. Thank you.
Nice
Thanks for
one.
having me on. It's been lovely.
Yeah, lovely. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And obviously, once this is uploaded, you can then share this link and put it onto your Facebook group and on
Lovely.
other groups. So, but for now, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed talking. And if you know anyone or you think that you can help, get in touch. Do, and I'll put all the links in the video description. But for now, take care. God bless, and I'll speak to you again soon. See you later.
Thanks.